Hello class, Dr. Mike here with a few bits of Linux for you. So we're going to talk about GRUB2 here. So GRUB2 has some advantages over legacy GRUB. Probably the biggest advantage itself here being it's not needed a BIOS. It actually uses a UEFI, so this will actually work with new systems. So if I have an older version of Linux and I want to install it on a new laptop per se, I'll need to go into the boot menu or the BIOS and actually activate legacy boot. So um, to actually be able to use a legacy grub. Well, grub 2 does not need that. So also it can boot from partitions inside of LVMs. There were some changes in grub, I believe, legacy that did allow that through the kernel. But most of the time you would see the logical volume management, everything but a /boot directory, and then you see everything else in an LVM. Again, we're going to talk about logical volume management later, also for RAID too. So this is a binary bootloader. So that being said, let's talk about what it is. We have a grub.conf, we have a boot grub2 directory, and there's a grub.cfg, not .conf. Remember, grub 1.0 had a conf file. And if you look at grub.cfg, it'll tell you at the very top, should not be edited manually. So we're going to get away from editing the file directly. And we're actually going to use another file to edit. So we have an etc default grub. And here's where we're going to actually, we can customize our boot entries here. There's some other files here. There's etcgrub.d directory. There's custom scripts here and other executables. I'm not going to get too much into this. We will edit the file, and after we're done, though, we need to actually run a grub2 make config to regenerate our grub config, or our grub update grub, which I'll show you, and it's going to depend upon right here. So again, this is Ubuntu-based update grub as root. So for Ubuntu, it's going to be, in our example here in a second, will be boot grub.cfg. So Fedora itself has grub2 in a directory, and then Fedora I think also has a different grub2 make config also. So we're seeing a divergence here from the older one in a lot of ways. This is a binary bootloader, and how we edit it's going to be different. So let's take a look. So again, I'm here logged into Ubuntu. I need to become root user, of course, no surprise. So sudo su dash is a good way to do that. netlab123, and you can see I'm now root user. I'm in the root file system. All right. So again, if we go to our boot directory, which we still have, we have a boot directory in Ubuntu, just like we have in CentOS we saw before. A couple different things though. We do have a grub directory though. There's a lot more here, isn't there? So we have a lot more stuff here that we had in our grub legacy. So if we try to, let's do a less on grub.cfg, and you can see right at the top, hopefully you see that, do not edit this file. Pretty obvious. It's going to tell you exactly what to do. This is actually generated from a grub make config, from a grub.d template, and settings from etc default grub. So we want to edit these files here. So etc default, we have You can see I'm etc default, and we have a grub directory. Oops, sorry. Etc default, we have a grub file. All right, so here we can see we changed this file itself, etc default grub. And you can see here it tells you exactly what to do. If you change this file, run update grub afterwards to update our grub CFG. So what we have though is some of the same settings. They're a little slightly different named. In grub legacy it's called timeout. Here it's called grub timeout. So if I want to change my default OS, hide the menu, in this case it's a 1 or 0. There's some other stuff here. You can uncomment, disable graphical terminal. You can basically uncomment that one line, and the comment is that pound sign or numeric sign or pound sign. You can take that out. Disable some stuff here, recovery equals true, and so on. But for right now, probably the easiest thing you probably would change would be the timeout. Let's make that 30 seconds. I save and quit, and I need to run my grub, my update grub. Grub, there we go. And that's it. So update dash grub, and it generates a new grub CFG for us.